Strange, yet true stories. Tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White. The black-eyed children phenomenon is relatively new. While many see these tales as nothing more than straight fiction, those who have had these creepy encounters with these otherworldly beings is anything but fictional, and it's turning skeptics into believers. I have always been a skeptic. I mean, I like scary stories as much as the next person. They're good for a chill or a thrill or to make the pulse increase. Getting scared can be fun, occasionally, but that was about it. I have always been a very fact-based person. If its existence was not apparent, or the existence of the thing in question was not testable and verifiable, to me, it was just a nice tall tale. And then, I had an experience of my own which changed the way I see the world entirely. One night, one long, terrifying night, still haunts me to this very day, and showed me the proof required to open my eyes and mind. I was just leaving my mom's house. I had gone over to visit because my father had recently passed away, and my mom wasn't taking it too well. I knew she needed support, and I was more than willing to go visit and keep her company, but now it was getting late. My mom lives in the suburbs. Tidy lawns, plenty of neighbors, paved roads, and even though it was near 11 p.m. when I left, the streets were extremely well lit by the street lights. These lights only lit the road, though, and glancing across the street, the houses were cast in an eerie shadow. Even a rather safe, charming little neighborhood can seem spooky when cast in shadow. I slid into my car, cranked the engine and revved it up, and then waved to my mother, who was standing in the doorway, wrapped comfortably in a warm shawl. She waved back, her old and fragile arms shaking. I saw her mouth the words, "Be careful," and I smiled, backing out of the driveway. I turned out of the neighborhood, deciding to take the back way, the shorter way home tonight. In hindsight, that's where I made my first mistake. I live a significant ways away, out in the middle of the country, in the old farmhouse I grew up in, which my father had left in my name when he and my mom had moved out, into a smaller place, more easy to care for and affordable. He had always told me growing up, don't go out at night and always beware the devils. He was a strong believer in anything and everything paranormal, a very superstitious man, and I always had to resist the urge to laugh at his words, but I knew he meant well. Driving down the dark country road, there were no streetlights, and the paved road was cracked and filled with potholes. The fields on either side of the road were empty, just blank stretches of overgrown grass and untended shrubbery. The dark outline of the trees of the woods could be seen looming all the way across the fields on the shadowy horizon. One might even see a deer or two once in a while in those fields, but not tonight. The moon offered little light as the sky rolled with dark, threatening clouds, ready to burst with rain or a storm at any moment. Sure enough, a few moments later, the low grumble of thunder sounded, heavy and long. However, no rain fell just yet, much to my pleasure. I hate driving at night, and especially in the rain, and putting those two together would end badly. I just knew it. Accompanied only by the occasional roll of thunder, I started to feel a bit anxious. I can't explain it. I just felt shaken up, probably because it was night and it would start raining soon. Or maybe I had been reading too many ghost stories and legends, and tonight seemed to reflect the mood of the stories I read almost obsessively. To try and calm myself, I turned on the car radio and turned the knob back and forth, slowing down a bit as I attempted to find a station that would come in clearly. Nothing doing. Weird. There was a tower right near here, and I was always able to pick up the station as clear as day. But still, nothing. The white noise and static of the blank stations was doing nothing to appease my anxiety. I gripped the steering wheel tightly as more thunder boomed from the sky. Aggravated, I forcefully shut off the radio, gritting my teeth. Glancing down at the dashboard, I noticed I was nearly out of gas. Great. Groaning, I began to search for road signs for gas. As I was scanning the side of the road, I noticed from the corner of my eye 2 figures walking on the side of the road, shrouded in shadow. They were walking slowly, and one turned around, walking backwards with his thumb sticking out. I felt compelled to pull over, give them a ride, and I found my hands turning the wheel slightly. But then I pulled back, realizing how stupid it would be of me to accept 2 random strangers into my car at nearly midnight on a backcountry road. I sped up and I passed them, trying not to look at them as I did so, though I felt oddly intrigued by them. As I focused on the road ahead, it started drizzling, dropping my mood another level or 2. Along with the rain, the thunder seemed louder, closer, as the storm moved in. A few seconds passed until I gave into my compulsion to look at the 2 figures, and I glanced in my rearview mirror. It seemed as if the 2 were walking faster, and the one no longer had his thumb out. But it had to be my imagination. How would I be able to tell if they were walking faster or not? It was rainy and dark. Looking back at the road, I almost missed the sign that alerted me to a gas station up ahead. A sigh of relief passed my lips, and I slowed down, looking for any indication of where the gas station was, pushing the thought of the 2 figures from my head. Soon, I was pulling into the gas station, slowly as the rain started to pick up. The store was closed, but it was one of those 24-hour gas pump services. That was good for me, as if they had not been, I'd have run out a few more miles down the road. I shut off the car and hesitantly shuffled out and glanced over my shoulder, still not really being able to shake that nervous feeling that had manifested inside me earlier that night. I stood under the light of the overhang, trying to figure out how to work the pump, which seemed so overcomplicated in the dim light, and with my mind not being able to focus on this simple task. The rain picked up and was heavier and louder against the concrete. As I finally was able to get the pump into my car, forcing my hand to stop shaking briefly, I had a horrible feeling that my shaking wasn't just because of the bitterly cold night air. Suddenly, the overhang lights of the gas stop started flickering wildly, a couple going out altogether. It seemed as if the temperature dropped 20 degrees in a few seconds as I glanced around, a sinking feeling starting to blossom in my stomach. As if in slow motion, I turned around, facing back towards the road, the long, lonely road, and saw what I expected to see there. But even as much as I knew what I'd see, I still felt the drop of my stomach, the color draining from my face, and I breathed a sharp, cold breath forcefully as it almost caught in my throat. Across the street, the 2 figures were standing, facing me. Then they started to cross the street, slowly but surely, and I fumbled with the gas pump. It had only been a few moments, but it seemed as if the gas pump was taking its precious time. I was shaking hard now as thunder boomed once more, and I looked back up. The figures were now at the entrance of the gas station, and my breath was quick and shallow as I blindly shoved the pump back onto its holder, not being able to tear my eyes away from the figures. As they drew closer, I became more frantic, even though now as they walked into the flickering light of the overhang, I saw they were just 2 teenagers. They looked ragged and frigid and soaked from the rain. I straightened up a bit, still terrified, but another compulsive feeling similar to the one I experienced in the car was bubbling to the surface, and I felt obligated to talk to these 2. Though I insisted to myself to just drive away, not to risk anything. They were extremely close now, at the next pump when I slid into my car, shaking wildly, and I fumbled for my keys, cursing myself as I dropped them on the floor. Leaning down, I swiped them up and sat back up. A cold, sickening feeling as I came face to face with one of the teenagers, who had his hand on my window, knocking slowly but forcefully. I rolled down the window a bit, just a bit, no bigger than to allow maybe a small child's hand through. Before I could speak, though, he spoke first, the other figure standing in the background still. But I could see something of a grin there on his pale face. "Can you give us a ride into town? We missed the bus and don't have a ride." He spoke slowly, and something about his voice made me shiver. A cold chill swept down my spine, and I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Clearing my throat, I glanced at the dashboard and at the keys in my hand. I'm sorry, but I'm not going into town," I stuttered, keeping my eyes down, not at the kids. However, the teenager knocked harsher and made me jump a little as he insisted another time for a ride. I told him no once more and looked up, trying to seem intimidating, which seemed silly, trying to seem intimidating to a child, but a horrible, chilling sight greeted me. I looked the kid right in the eyes and gasped, my back hitting my seat as I went to back away. His eyes, they were blacker than the night, pitch black. No discernible pupils and no white whatsoever showing. Pure black, deep, brooding, and surprisingly intriguing. But my fear got the better of me, and I quickly turned the key and my engine revved to life. I thanked God, which I had never ever done before that night. My car had not stalled, and I went to pull away, and the kid banged on my window with a pale fist, screaming for a ride. I took off speedily down the road, apologizing to my father again and again for ever having laughed at him and never taking his warnings seriously. After a few more minutes, I pulled into my driveway. I didn't want to spend any more time outside. I jumped out of the car, and I went inside, slamming the door behind me, locking it, even going as far as to put a chair in front of the door in case someone or something tried to get in. This has been another strange but true story. Has something strange ever happened to you, but you've kept it quiet because you figured you'd be considered crazy or weird? Share it with us. Send an email to strangebutTrueStories2@gmail.com. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think of these stories. And subscribe for videos delivered each week. Thanks for all the support of our many subscribers and commenters. We are truly humbled and blessed by your support. I'm Steve White. Until next time.